So the State of the Nation address, it seems to be very COVID-dominated, doesn't it?
Well, it would be COVID-dominated also because of what we're faced as a people. Okay, now, we're faced with a situation where we're trying to recover from COVID, which has affected our economy. And so all the things we've been talking about following the launch of the coronavirus alleviation and revitalization enterprise support scheme, the CARES program, which you call Obatenpa, you're looking...
100 billion program.
Yes, 100 billion program in the next 3 years up to 2023. You're looking at revitalizing your economy. You want to grow your economy again. And so what are the things you're going to do to be able to grow your economy? That's what you're going to be talking about this time around. Because we have, when it comes to the analysis about the state of the nation, one of the things we have learned from the days that John Dramani Mahama was a member of parliament, and he put forth this argument that, look, you're looking at where we are as a people, where we want to go, and how we intend to get there. The truth is, where we are now is that the country, the economy, has been affected by COVID. Where we want to go is that we want to get out of that situation. What measures are we going to put in place? That's what the president is going to tell us. But that is not all. That is not all. People would also want to hear, the president talk about corruption. He's in the past talked about how corruption has affected our economy. It is estimated we lose about $3 billion annually as a result of corruption.
Right.
Just imagine what that can do for the Ghanaian economy.
So that's Winston Amma with a few opening comments, capturing really everything that we're going to discuss this afternoon. But Parker Wilson is live at Parliament for us. Parker, tell us about the atmosphere there. Hi, Parker, can you hear me? Right.
Yeah, I can hear you, Daniel.
Great. Describe for us the atmosphere.
Right, so Daniel,
Parliament.
I am here at the Dome. Actually, is a makeshift structure serving as a chamber for members of Parliament. Now, because of COVID-19 and the protocols Parliament would want to observe, that is why they moved from the main chamber to this tent where the president is expected to deliver the State of the Nation address to members of Parliament, and of course, to the people of this country as well. Now, preparations are currently underway. If you go to outside, or if you go if you move outside the tent, you realize that there is heavy police and military presence here to ensure that security is being observed. Again, the from Dance Group are also present, waiting for the president arrival, including the Ghana Police Service, who are going to usher the president into the chamber. Now, one interesting thing that is happening there is that a few of the majority members of Parliament who have come to the chamber are all wearing white. Now, I want to engage some of them briefly. A member of Parliament for Second D constituency, Ejapamesa, is he's wearing white. First of all, before I get to your expectation, I see most of your colleagues are wearing white. What's the occasion?
Of course, you know that His Excellency the President election was challenged by the NDC in the Supreme Court. And last Thursday, I believe, the Supreme Court delivered its judgment confirming His Excellency the President as duly elected. And so to commemorate the victory of His Excellency the President in the Supreme Court, we as a caucus elected to wear white, which obviously is the color for jubilation. And so that's why I guess that you see many of us wearing white this morning.
But is this from the structure of your leadership, or it was a collective decision by the...
Of course, I mean, caucus decision is always led by leadership.
No, because I'm asking that because I see Joa is the first deputy speaker here in the blue suit.
Well, of course, he is first deputy speaker.
Right.
And so if he elects to wear something else, I wouldn't be surprised. But you will see many of the people on our side going to be in white this morning.
Right, so today is the first time the president will be delivering the State of the Nation address after he was sworn in as President of the Republic of Ghana. For you, what are your expectations, sir?
Well, I expect that he will tell us the true state of Ghana in terms of the economy, which would, in my estimation, be very high on the agenda. Because you know that we are just on the verge of coming out of COVID. Indeed, I took my vaccination yesterday. And of course, I don't know whether you've taken your jab and the experience that comes with it. COVID has wreaked huge havoc on our way of life, on our economy. This morning, monitoring the airwaves, you could hear road contractors, service providers, people in the hotel industry, people in the transportation sector, airline industry. Everybody's been impacted some way, somehow. So I would expect that His Excellency the President will go very high on what it is that his government is going to do to ensure that as we get out of the pandemic, even though we are still not out of the woods yet, the programs and policies that government is going to roll out with a budget also almost in play on Friday, give some pointers as to what it is that his government is going to do to ensure that Ghana gets back on track. I mean, if you look at the pre-COVID situation, where all the economic indicators were looking positive following our assumption of office, you recall that our brothers on the other side had run this economy aground. Took hard work for us to begin to uplift ourselves, and just when we were on the verge of exiting, then COVID struck, which has put many economic indicators out of gear. In fact, if you look at our debt to GDP ratio, it's gone completely out of gear. The Fiscal Responsibility Act that we passed to ensure that we're disciplined had to be suspended. Of course, government has had to expend so much in ensuring that Ghanaian lives and livelihoods were protected. Many cost centers that were not anticipated have had to come on stream. So I would expect that the president to go very high on that. And of course, following the election and the Supreme Court decision, of course, the composition of Parliament is also almost evenly tied. And so it's important that we work together for the common good of the Ghanaians. So I expect that His Excellency the President will speak to those matters as well, and several other sectors of the economy that typically State of the Nation address is intended to address, I'm sure.
You specifically mentioned about the election petition, which was, the verdict was delivered somewhere last week, and some say that, well, the country is sharply divided over the verdict, and even here in Parliament, the minority is not happy with the verdict. What exactly are you expecting the president to say that will bring inclusion and consensus going forward in order to, enjoy good governance?
Well, having spent 4 years in here already, the Parliament of Ghana has, for the most part, worked around some consensus. People really don't see what the inner workings of our committee systems are. You've been here for quite some time as well, and you know that many of the things that are considered in Parliament is almost always on consensus basis, and so that won't change. I don't know to what extent that the minority will be disappointed with the outcome of the Supreme Court decision, because the facts were clear. The petition that they themselves took to court was clear to everybody, and the outcome really wasn't surprising to many. They themselves, I suppose, that they knew that petition was going nowhere, and so to that extent. But also the confusion that I get people often make is to mix the presidential elections with the parliamentary. I think that is completely different, because if you look at the election results, His Excellency the President won in more than 148 constituencies, but the MPP MPs won in 137. Obviously, that tells you that the general acceptability of the people of Ghana with respect to the work that His Excellency the President had done. Several factors informed the outcome of the parliamentary election. So yes, 137, 138 may seem close, but that does not in any way affect the popularity of His Excellency the President among the people of Ghana. We need to work together, I agree, so that the people of Ghana can get the benefit largely of what it is that members of Parliament whose work is intended to support His Excellency the Executive delivering on a mandate. And we are going to do whatever it is that we would, of course. His Excellency the President has always indicated, if you recall the inaugural address, he clearly articulated the need for us to work together as a people. And so re-echoing that at the State of the Nation address would be what I would expect him to do. And we will work with the NDC to ensure that we deliver the best for our people.
All right, thank you very much. Honorable Japan Minister. Kennedy Osenyako is a former Deputy Minister responsible for Agriculture and is also here wearing white. Sir, your expectation is ahead of the State of the Nation address?
Well, I expect the president to touch on two major things. That is about the economy, the recovery program. You know how the COVID has affected the entire economy of the world, which Ghana cannot exclude itself from the repercussion. So I believe the president will be able to touch on the few things, how his budget statement is going to look like. The sectors, I think there are 20 sectors that the president is going to focus on, but the key will be on the economy. And the energy is also very key. You know, the current situation that we find ourselves in terms of our energy situation, the power outages. I'm sure the president will take the opportunity to, let's say, give the assurances to the Ghanaian people as to how he's going to deal with the situation. So I expect the president on this key to area, and maybe he will touch on the COVID, though we've started taking the vaccine. Maybe the president will give a brief explanation about how the COVID situation is so far, and maybe the vaccination is so far going. So these are the few things that I expect the president to touch on, but the key among them is the economy, because without the economy, we can't do anything.
Right, now let me digress a little bit. You were a former deputy agric minister. The president has already nominated or appointed ministers, sector ministers. Are you expectant of your former position?
Well, getting a ministerial or deputy ministerial position is a privilege. It's the prerogative of the president. So, well, I'll be happy if the president re-nominates me or reappoints me. But I will equally not be sad if the president decides that somebody else should take that position. The most important thing is about the government. How will the government perform? If my whole intuition is how to support the Akufo-Addo government to succeed, and for that matter, the MPP government. So if I don't get in a position, that's not the end of the world.
But for you, did you perform creditably to deserve renomination? In your own estimate?
We were to support our ministers.
Right.
We were to support our ministers. We were not substantive ministers. So we were assigned responsibility to perform, which I know every assignment that was assigned to me. But you are in the media, you are part of them. So you see, you have been engaging me more often on agric matters. I've been appearing before the various media platforms to speak on agric matters. So that was the role that was assigned to me to do, more like a mouthpiece for the ministry, even though we have a PRO. But I was doing more, communicating the government programs with the media. And so, well, it is left to the president to decide if I have performed or I haven't performed. But, well, whatever decision the president takes, I think I will be happy and I will live by that. If the president says, Kennedy, you have performed, or Kennedy, I'm taking you to a new ministry to work there, I will thank the president and go and work hard there. So if he decides that, okay, Kennedy, whatever I wanted you to do in the Greek ministry, you've done it, I'm satisfied, but in my second government, I think I don't have any plans for you to be part of it. I will just thank the president and keep on with my parliamentary work, which is the first assignment, and work hard to complement the effort of the entire government to make sure that whatever program that we have set for ourselves or contained in our manifesto, we're able to fulfill it. So.
All right, sure. Thank you very much. So, Kennedy Osenyako is a former Deputy Agric Minister. The Member of Parliament for Ascent South constituency, Reverend Intin Fojo, is here. Reverend, please, the President is just about to deliver the State of the Nation address. What are your specific expectations?
My specific expectations will be highlights on the way forward. COVID has done a lot of havoc to every economy around the world, and our economy is not anything different. We're hoping to see the new measures that are going to be put in place to put us on a path of economic recovery. We also are most expectant to hear highlights of the major promises that we made in the manifesto and the plans that the government is undertaking to realize them. And so on job creation, on economic recovery, on education, agri sector as well, many other sectors. So we are hoping to hear what we all will be gladdened with. And so
you have been talking largely on LGBT activities in this country, and you want some law to be passed to ban such activity. The president has an opportunity to, even though a few years gone by, he talked about it in a church. Are you expecting him to boldly make a statement on the raging debate about LGBT?
Yeah, LGBT is one issue that is a concern to everyone across a lot of majority people in the country. The president has made a statement regarding that earlier on, and so I do not expect that he might repeat. But if it does find expression in the State of the Nation, I would not be surprised at all, considering the concerns around it. Just last week, myself and a group of my colleagues, bipartisan caucus, we have decided to sponsor a private members bill to provide greater clarity and to have a more comprehensive legislation to deal adequately with on the matters of LGBT. So I'm sure these are matters that will engage the president's attention. But if no expression is made, I will not be surprised. And if he makes reference to it, it would be okay. But he has already spoken about that.
Right, thank you very much. So, Daniel, I mean, these are some of the comments by the members of parliament on the majority side. I mean, key on the agenda is the economic recovery program that they expected the president to touch on with regards to, the COVID-19, the impact it had on businesses. Now, I wanted to engage briefly the member of parliament for Ablikma South constituency, Honorable Akufo-Addo, on his expectations. Honorable, your expectations briefly with regards to the State of the Nation address, sir.
Well, I'm hoping that the president will come to the high expectation of making sure that he will say something about our situation with the pandemic, COVID-19. Where are we? And what's the way forward? Now that we have the vaccine, when are we expecting more? So that everybody and anybody who needs to be vaccinated in Ghana will be taken care of. I'm hoping that the president would address that. Secondly, what is the plan or scheme of action for our economic recovery program for 2021 and going forward, so that we can address the issues about unemployment, the issues about supporting our local businesses to grow so that our economy will do better. And then unemployment is also something we should look at. And then our social amenities, water, energy, our roads. The president should tell us where we are going with this agenda for the benefit of the people of Ghana. I'm hoping that the president will address these issues so that we as parliament can also focus on these areas, so that our representation here in parliament will be meaningful to the people of Ghana.
Right, so Donald, if you listen to the parliamentarians, it is quite clear that the economy is very important to them, especially the 2021 recovery program in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic and the impact it had on businesses. What the president is going to do, or what government is doing to ease the burden on businesses, very key for them. If you listen to the majority side, that has been the observation or their comment on this matter. Again, the minority has also indicated that is very key for them. Aside that, there has been issues about unemployment as well, and also agri. But before I let you go, just last week the Supreme Court delivered its ruling on the election petition, and some say that the petition has split the country. They're expecting the president to speak about inclusion and how parliament can work together going forward to inure to the benefit of the people of this country. For you, what will be your brief comments on this, sir?
Well, I think I spoke to you last week on that issue, and I think that it is important that the president would know and knows, looking at the outcome of the election, the NDC virtually won on almost equal votes. Then when you come to parliament, Parliament is also equal standards of votes, you see. So it would be just ideal and proper for the nation that the president should speak on that, call this country to unity, and call the country to say that, look, with what has happened, I have realized what Ghanaians are saying, and I, as the president, so this country to go for. Number one, I don't expect the president to talk about what NDC did not do. I don't expect the president to talk about where NDC left this country. I expect the president to talk about what he has done, what he do, taking responsibility, and say, look, MPs of Parliament, come, let's work together and let's move this country forward. You understand? I think that will endure to the benefit of all Ghanaians, knowing that the outcome of our elections shows that Ghanaians are split, virtually 50-50.
But do we know that after the verdict, the NDC flag bearer has reached out to the president to congratulate him? Do we know that?
Well, I'm not aware of that, but I think that...
Would you be surprised if he hasn't done that yet?
No, I won't be surprised, but I'm saying that it is something that let the president show the way. Is the president.
You want the president to rather call him?
I'm not saying the president should call him. I'm saying, look, calling is one thing, but action is another thing. You know, the action, let's work together. Calling on MPs in Parliament to say, hey, let's work together. I think action speaks louder than words.
All right, sure. Thank you very much. So Akufo-Addo is the Member of Parliament for Blue South constituency here and go to Accra. And Daniel, it's clear they're expecting the president to talk about unity going forward into the next 4 years, or the second term of the administration, as he prepares to bow out in 2024 as a result of the election petition. Call for unity is key. We need a country to develop, and so it will be important and imperative on the president to speak about how both the NDC, the NPP, and the other minority parties rally behind this government to support the cause of government's agenda. And so these are a few of the views, expectations I've gathered from some of the members of Parliament. Now, just behind me is where the president is expected to sit when he arrives there in the chamber, the Speaker of Parliament, and of course the Chief Justice, the members of Parliament, the MPP caucus have already occupied their seats, and on my far left is where the NDC caucus is. Now, I'll try and make an attempt to speak to some of the NDC to understand what their expectations are this very afternoon, even as we expect the president to arrive here in the chamber. The former Minister for Energy, Akufo-Addo, is here. Sir, thank you very much. Briefly, your expectations ahead of this year's the State of the Nation address?
Well, I hope that this is different from all we've listened to. None of the things that the president has ever delivered in his State of the Nation address has been fulfilled. We hope that this is different, but we have no hope. We have very low...
You have no hope?
No. Very low expectation for this president, Mr. Doolittle. So we will listen to him, but we are just hoping that this is different from all the empty deliveries he has made in the past.
I see, but then in recent past or a few days gone by, we've been experiencing some power outages. As a former minister in that sector, what specifically are you expecting the president?
It is really a problem. I hope he addresses it and comprehensively give us a plan on how that will be resolved. I mean, it is very, very important. So I think that we'll hold our breath and listen to the president, and then after that we'll make the comments. We just hope that he will be very realistic. Those grandiose speeches he has been giving in the past, with all sorts of promises that has never been delivered. We don't know what happened to all the hospitals he promised, all the industrial projects that he had talked about, you know, and so many things that this president has said that he has basically pretended that he didn't even say it. We are just hoping that he will be very realistic about this next 4 years and lay out a plan that can actually be implemented. The people of Ghana are really tired of these empty promises.
I see. The Esnafo South MP, Eric Opoko, is also here. I see him going through some document. I don't know if that was the statement of the president marking some documents here. But quickly, Honorable, your expectations?
Next, an indicator to Ghanaians in this country, because we understand the situation in which we find. Everything is verging on collapse. The center can no longer hold, and the president must be courageous enough to tell us the truth. That is what we expect from him.
And the truth, as what do you mean by the truth?
No.
Of the president.
So that's Parker Wilson interacting with some members of parliament in what is now the floor of parliament. It's a dome that has been constructed just outside the chamber itself to allow for social distancing. You're live on the JoyNews channel, also on Joy 99.7 FM on radio. My name is Daniel Daz, here in studio with Winston Amwa. So Winston, it seems like the COVID-19 pandemic and the resultant recovery program is high on the agenda, like we were saying earlier. But the expectations are also high from the members on the minority side.
Well, I mean, you can understand, for instance, why Emmanuel Akufo-Addo will raise the question about the construction of 111 hospitals. These things would certainly lead to a bit of consumption. So once you're doing that, so that's the point. You're constructing. People are going to work in these, in the construction sector. These people are going to get money. When they get money, they will spend the money. When they spend the money, the economy, the local economy will boom. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's very important you do that. I mean, apart from ensuring that we're able to deal with health infrastructure, it's also going to trigger a certain amount of growth in the Ghanaian economy. And that is why one district, one factory is very important around this time also. The president promised one district, one factory by teaming up with the private sector.
Exactly.
What we would want to see is what has become of this. And under COVID-19, the number isn't what matters. See, let me explain. What I'm saying is that saying I have assisted 300,000 enterprises is not what matters.
The impact on the ground.
The impact on the ground is what matters.
I want us to elaborate a bit more on that, but let's hear what the president had to say last year about the economy, especially in the energy sector, and the contributions that he had made and the plans they had. And then we'll begin a conversation about what COVID has really done to our economy, the plans we had, and how we can make our way out of it. Stay with us.
Will come to naught unless we have a reliable and reasonably priced energy source. It probably says something about the progress we have made, that in discussing the state of our nation, it takes a while even to get into our power supply matters. It gives me great pleasure to be able to say that we have overcome the Doomsaw menace. But unfortunately, I cannot say that we have resolved all our energy problems. It is still work in progress. Further, the 5 years of energy crisis led to the signing of what can only be described as usurious contracts that have landed our country with a huge financial burden. The take-or-pay contracts resulted in the country being saddled with expensive excess power and are having to pay nearly $1 billion United States dollars in 2018 and 2019 for power we did not need. We're working to find a way out to ensure reliable power supply at a cost that makes us competitive in the region.
President Akufo-Addo speaking on the energy sector. First of all, Winston, I can't imagine we're looking at a video from just a year ago. No masks, no social distancing. COVID-19 was, something happening across the world.
And so that tells you what COVID-19 has done to all of us. Yeah. And that's why I need to go back to my earlier point. Look, one of the things we love to do in this country is to look at numbers. We say we have created, we like to say we have done this. Mm-hmm. And so we love the fact that we have assisted a lot of businesses. Mm-hmm. We like to say we have provided 1 million seedlings to 1 million farmers. Mm-hmm. I mean, you provide more than 1 million seedlings to 1 million farmers anyway, but we like to say we supply seedlings to 1 million farmers. Instead of saying we assisted 10 farmers to cultivate 1 million acres on a large scale, and these farmers can feed the country. Mm. Okay? That is what we should be thinking of. We should be thinking of the big projects that can transform the economy and not be doing things in thought. So I did it.
We don't have a results-based approach.
No, because you see, we measure efforts. Mm-hmm. We measure efforts a lot in this country. We don't measure the result. And so if we consistently measure efforts, one of the things we're going to be doing is always trumpeting, oh, I supplied this, or I said I would do this, and I cut the sword for this, instead of measuring the impact of your sword cutting. If we are able to get to that level, where, for instance, in other jurisdictions, and when we say that in other jurisdictions, they remind us that why are you comparing yourself to the developed world? I say, if you compare yourself to a dwarf, you would always be tall. Mm. Okay? So compare yourself to best practice, where in the developed world, we can actually say, over the past 1 month, we lost this number of jobs and created that number of jobs. My point is simple. The president has a chance to right the wrongs of the past. Certain decisions may have been taken because we're preparing for elections. Now elections are over. What do we want to do as a people?
What are some of these decisions that you feel may have?
Well, I am making a point, and I'm saying that, look, let me be very honest with you. I do not think that the provision of free water is a good enough policy. I would explain any day. I, seated here, have never enjoyed free water. Mm. I still pay for water. I do not have a problem with that, okay? Because in my estate, you pay every 6 months, you pay for water, security, and sanitation. So I am not going to say, because the president says there's free water, I am not going to pay. My point is, if you say you're giving free water to this country, at what cost are you going to do that? People are paying. If you say, I'm taking care of electricity for Lifeline customers, we do know the challenge when it comes to Lifeline customers and persons who live in these houses. I don't want to overstretch that point. Mm-hmm. I am saying that if you want to get the things done and done right, if I help you, Daniel Dadze, to get a good paying job, you, Daniel Dadze, can take care of your needs. That notwithstanding, there are people who may need that assistance. And so the effective means testing system that we need to put in place is what is lacking in our country. Mm-hmm. And so when we start and say, for instance, I think, and I'm one of those who advocate free SHS, for instance, a proper means testing would have helped.
So that we could identify those who actually need it. The
means
free
testing
intervention
is key. Mm. Means testing is key. For those who can afford, Ken Ofori-Atta said it. He said he doesn't believe that Ken Ofori-Atta, cannot pay his board school fees. Yeah. Okay? And that's the Minister of Finance. Look, people would say, oh, it's the state kitty, and so all of us should enjoy from it. The essence of taxation sometimes, the reason why when you earn more, we charge you more, is that you should contribute towards the well-being of the poor.
I'll let you continue, Winston, but for the benefit of our audience on Joy 99.7 FM, currently I see all the members of parliament, really all those attending the reading of the State of the Nation address on their feet. There's a current standing ovation. It's expected that President Akufo-Addo will be in the House in just a moment. And I see a number of dignitaries walking in currently. Yes, in your shots now, if you're watching us on JoyNews, some diplomats, I can say. I see members of the judiciary, the Chief Justice leading a number of the Supreme Court justices into the chamber. And, Winston, here's our friend from the Boehm constituency, Kofi Adams, former organizer of the NDC, He's in our shot currently, but behind them is where the dignitaries are filing into the House. We see the Supreme Court justices walking in. It's been a very busy couple of months for them, hasn't it, Winston?
It has been. But of course, that's what is expected of them. Daniel, if you're a Supreme Court judge, there's every possibility of having to sit on an election petition, like we've seen.
Yeah.
So that's normal.
Yeah, really historic occasion, really, for the country. I am glad that we have successfully adjudicated 2 election petitions in the country. It simply enriches our democracy. Yeah, so I think this was a standing ovation for the Supreme Court justices to walk into the House. I see, are those members of the Council of States seated right by them? I see the Honorable E.T. Mensah, yes, right there. So for the benefit of our audience on radio, yeah, the Supreme Court justices have entered the dome. The members of the Council of State are also there. A number of other dignitaries. Currently in our shot is the Director of Public Affairs of Parliament, Akufo-Addo. She was making a few announcements. So Winston, you were making the point really about how it's not about numbers, it's about impact. My memory comes to when Ken Ofori-Atta mentioned in the budget reading that 12.2 billion Ghana cedis has been put into the pocket of the Ghanaian. Is that not a fine balance between measuring impact and numbers?
You see, 1.2 billion Ghana cedis.
It was 12.2.
No, I mean, free SH has not cost us to.
I mean, no, I'm talking about
all the policies.
The taxation and everything. It's put 12.2 billion.
That's part of the sloganeering.
Go ahead.
That's part of the sloganeering.
Go ahead.
It makes good for political discourse. No, I mean, let's face it. It's good for political discourse. You get to talk about it, but beyond
it's a good soundbite.
Beyond the talk. My point is beyond the talk. I do not think that in the world's developed economies, they pride themselves of having given seedlings to 1 million farmers annually. You don't pride yourself that you've done that. If 1,000 farmers can feed the country, let those 1,000 farmers feed the country. If 100 farmers can feed the country, let those 100 farmers feed the country. Of course, there's the fear that these persons at a point in time may, get to artificially control price and all of that. You ask yourself, how do I want to mitigate that effect? Think. That's why you're put there. Okay? Let us think outside the box. I'm not saying that we're not thinking enough.
But are we not, limited to the political implication of some of these decisions?
You see, Daniel, that's the point. The point is that everything we're doing now is focusing on the next election. And that's why I say I am happy this is Nana Akufo-Addo's second term. Nana, the time to leave a legacy is now. Okay? This is the time to leave a legacy. This is a time that you say, this is what I left for Ghanaians. Good, you have done free SHS. You talk about one district, one factory. You say you want to build 111 hospitals. Do that. If there's one thing COVID-19 has taught us, COVID-19 has taught us that our health infrastructure and delivery system is not the best.
It's key.
Deal with it now. And if you want to deal with it, look, let me tell you something. If you go and borrow, if I wake up in the morning at Mpoho.
I'll let you go ahead once again, Winston. But in our shot currently is President Akufo-Addo's convoy coming into the grounds of State House. I see a number of SUVs bringing in the VIPs. Expected President Akufo-Addo, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Obamia will also be in tow. Winston, I just wanted to inform the audience. You can continue.
No problem. So if I wake up in the morning in my hometown of Mpoho and I see that the health facility, Mpoho Health Center, has become Mpoho District Hospital, I know that is my money being put to good use. If you wake up in your village and you see that there's a district hospital, you can see what the money is being used for. My point is,
we don't need to be reminded if the work is being done.
We don't need to be reminded. Sometimes it's important to say a thing or two by way of telling you, I'm the one who did this. No problem. But enough of the dreaming and thinking their achievements.
Dreaming and thinking their achievements.
Yes.
I like that one.
Yes. Let us get to work. Look, we have enough money in this country to be able to transform its fortunes around. When Dr. Bawumia said there was money right here in the country, I believed him because in 2015, Anthony Doku, then who was a deputy commissioner of Shraj, wrote and said an estimated 36 billion Ghana cedis was lost at the ports. Another 25 billion Ghana cedis was estimated to have been lost as a result of the non-filing of taxes. Add that, and you have 60 billion Ghana cedis. How much is our capital expenditure in this country?
No, I mean, the entire
capital expenditure.
The entire budget expenditure last year was 71 billion.
No, it moved. We had expected 85 billion. Then because of COVID-19, it went up to about 100 billion. And my point is, out of that, our normal, look, let me give you a typical example. So in the original budget for 2020, our interest payments was about 22 billion. Emoluments, personnel emoluments and gratuity, others were in excess of 23 billion Ghana cedis. You're looking at principal payment. You haven't paid your principal yet, too. If you pay principal, if you do government transfers, if you do goods and services, you're left with a capital expenditure of less than 20 billion. Now, I am saying, if you look at how much is lost, the leakages in the Ghanaian economy, and the documents I have quoted to you, I mentioned the name, Mr. Doku, who was with SEPS at the time. He says, this is what is estimated to have been lost. And that is why government set up that committee, which Dr. Clementa Park was a member of, to actually see to the fact that people pay the right taxes when they brought things into this country. You'll be in a position to talk about it. I'm only drawing your attention to the fact that when Dr. Bawumia said, prior to election 2016, that there was money in this country, he was right. Now that he is in government, the money, we should find it. We should do the right things to get the money in this country, okay? And once we get the money in this country, we would realize that we can do so many things with the money that we have.
I'm glad you mentioned this because from the report that you quoted, Mr. Doku's report, it's clear that we needed to take another stance in the fight against corruption in order for us to recoup some of these funds. So let's hear what President Akufo-Addo had to say about the fight against corruption in 2020, and then we come back and do some more analysis here. In the meantime, we know that Haruna Idrisu has taken his seat, minority leader. A number of other dignitaries have taken their seat. It's almost time for us to receive President Akufo-Addo. But whilst we wait, we'll hear what he had to say last year about corruption. Stay with us.
China is unfortunately battling an outbreak of the deadly COVID-19 virus. We sympathize with the people of China at this time of great trouble. I have written to President Xi Jinping to convey to the government and the people of China the solidarity and sympathy of the compassionate people of Ghana. Some 40 or more high-profile personalities are currently before the courts on various corruption charges, and most are in the pipeline. I would like to repeat that if evidence of corruption is presented, no one will be spared. Regardless of position or political affiliation, no one is above the law. That is the true meaning of equality before the law.
President Akufo-Addo on the fight against corruption way back in 2020. In that time, between that time and now, I can't help but remember the impasse with Daniel Domelevo, and which really started sometime last year, soon after which there was also this misunderstanding with Martin Amidu, resulting in Martin Amidu's resignation. And then, finally, Daniel Domelevo being asked to go on retirement. Is that the picture of this government's fight against corruption?
Well, Daniel, let me say that there are certain things that are out there for everybody to see. If Mr. Daniel Domelevo actually praised the government for assisting him And the government made references to his investigations all the time when they talk about the disallowance of certain expenditure. And today, Mr. Daniel Domelevo has to go through such a situation. You ask yourself a few questions. First, he's forced to go on leave. That case had been taken to the court. I'm not one who talks about cases that are in court. But if you read the laws yourself, you can form your own interpretation and say that it's either you take your leave or you lose it. Whatever that means. You can also judge for yourself. Take it or you lose it. Unless you have gone in, I mean, the law is very clear on that. Let me leave that. I don't want to get into anything that is before the court. And the man has 3 months to retire according to his passport. And you say, go on retirement.
Because you have already retired according to your state.
It will be difficult to convince anybody that government has nothing to hide. It will be very difficult.
But what could he find in 3 months? That's the question I keep asking myself.
I do not know. But for government, this doesn't send the right signal of a government that wants to fight corruption. Not the man you praise, not the man whose work you use all the time to say, this man actually has helped in the fight against corruption.
And in the case of Martin Amidu, his reports and his comments about John Mahama featured heavily about John Mahama and the Airbus saga. It was really touted by a government elite until this mother serpent issue started.
Well, I'm not going to dwell more on Martin Amidu's resignation and all of that when it comes to the fight against corruption, because I think also that Mr. Amidu must also look at himself. So I'm not, if you ask me, Yao Domelevo, and
a different case.
And the facts on the ground are totally different from Mr. Martin Amidu's situation. Mr. Martin Amidu should take a second look at a few things and a few decisions of his. That's all I'd say about Martin Amidu. Look, they say that people say that if you stand at one place, don't be like the man who stands at one place and says, I'll weed through this area, that area, that area, that area. Get to work. When you stand and say, so what do I know? Sometimes it's important to get to work. The evidence on the ground is that Daniel Domelevo,
he did a lot of
disallowed expenditure. He did investigations that led government to say, and they trumpeted these, that through the work of the Auditor General, we have seen that these contracts have been done, that has been done. And so we have saved the country this amount of money, 5 billion. Yes, it is. We have saved the country. It added to the political discourse. We have saved the country. Professor Mills was unprecedented. And Akufo-Addo, we have saved the country this amount. If the Public Procurement Authority, actually you take a contract and says, oh, maybe you should reduce this, it says that these are savings to the Ghanaian economy. That's another way of couching it, sloganeering. No problem. But I am saying, for Daniel Domelevo, whatever problem the government had with him, he had 3 months to retire. And this, for me, looks more like, I'll show you something, that I have the power. But that's not what you do in a fight against corruption. The man, in any jurisdiction, also because he had said people are reducing their age, so maybe don't even give him additional time. But the evidence on the ground, the man is called Daniel Yao Domelevo.
Born on a Thursday.
Born on a Thursday. 1st June 1961 is a Thursday.
Not 1st June 1960.
Our parents made mistakes with their date of birth, only to realize that when they were older. Could he have been that? Whatever the situation was, 3 months was not a long time.
But would it be fair to reduce government's efforts in the fight against corruption to this single issue?
No. I mean, you asked a specific question, and that's why I gave you the response I gave you. I wouldn't say that would be reduced to just this issue, but you also would have to ask yourself, Daniel, we have seen cases in the past where there's been allegations, some of which have been investigated. They were investigated by the National Security, CID, and these persons were cleared. Another was investigated by Parliament that said there was no wrongdoing. So these are there. So you can look at them and say, oh, you may have your disagreements with the institution that investigated them. And so when it comes to the Asenso, Boache, and Samuel Abu-Jinapo issue, CID investigated them. When it comes to the Bost saga, a committee had been put in place before the national security had indicated they did no wrong.
Is that not a good thing that in all of these things investigations took place?
Well, I am saying, investigations were conducted. I'm not running away from that. And I've told you, so based on the investigations that were conducted, you can say that this is something that happened that had been investigated, even though others would have a problem with it and say that why did the CID or national security investigate these? Whatever it is, there was investigations. And so you saw a president that was trying to ensure that the right things were done. But apart from 3, 4, 5 cases in his first year were investigated. Help me remember other investigations that have been done.
Apart from these initial ones, what I can remember is the Ameri saga. I can remember the Australia visa scandal. There was a more recent scandal with Australia involving, another Paralympic Games trip. A very, very recent one where a list came out.
Oh, the Australian visa saga?
So there was the Australia visa saga, and there's another more recent one, also involving the Paralympics Association. Yes, and there's also a couple of bust scandals, like you mentioned. I think that the general conversation around this has been the fact that there hasn't been any prosecution yet, and nobody has been found guilty. And the details of the investigations have not been brought out anyway. So that we don't know, for instance, with the Australia visa scandal, all we know is that Pius Hajide is not guilty according to the president. But who is guilty then? So, but anyway, those are some of the issues. I want us to quickly touch on the fight against COVID-19, Winston, before we finally wrap up and go to Parliament House. The COVID-19 pandemic, of course, the economic effects is ravaging, but the disease itself and the stance that we have taken, it looks like we have made some gains, but there's a lot of things we could have done better.
Well, I've always insisted that when we started the fight against COVID-19, we did everything so well. We're the talk of the whole world. We lost it along the line, but after the elections, and the reasons we lost it because of the elections, but after the elections, we've been doing well. We've gone back to doing the right things, even though we're using a law that had expired. When the police were arresting people, they were using a law passed in June for 3 months. I mean, that had expired. That EI 164 that the police were using, so for the next 3 months, it was gone. But we're beginning to do the right things again.
Okay.
The vaccines have come. We have started vaccinating Ghanaians, which is good. And so, apart from the beaches that are still open, even though they're supposed to be closed, and Ghanaians are being a bit recalcitrant in that instance, and I think that more enforcement is important.
It's not just the beaches. There are lots of pubs are open, nightclubs.
So these things we have to, punish these persons. I know that the security agencies have been going around, but on the whole, I mean, it should be said, for instance, that when it comes to the fight against COVID-19, recent happenings shows that we're going back to the past where we did a lot of things right. Our testing regime may not be the best because you test and you expect your results in 3-4 days, which is something we should move away from.
Yeah, it was supposed to be 48 hours.
Exactly.
It's gone way beyond that.
Yes, if we're able to move away from that. The electioneering period got us to throw a lot of things to the dogs, and it's the reason we have seen that a lot of people have died in this year alone. In fact, more people have died in the first 2 months, 2.5 months of this year than the whole of 2020. And that tells you that we did a lot of things wrong. There's also the possibility that maybe the UK variety that came in may be stronger than it was previously, resulting in this death.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense what you say. Now, the vaccines are in. Winston, at the last counts, 202,000 doses had been given out as of Sunday evening. The information we have is that about a third of those who have taken their vaccines have not been captured in the system yet for various reasons. And so as a result, it's estimated that some 300,000 doses have been given out so far. You know, beyond the initial buzz and the conversation about side effects and what have you, it still looks like a positive number. We had 600,000 doses. It's been a week. Close to half of them have been given out. Another 50,000 have been supplied, have been donated from India. That is going to augment it soon. Some 2 million coming by the end of the month. If you look at all these numbers, it looks like we are beginning to see light at the end of the tunnel, isn't it?
Indeed, we are. But Ishmael Yamson also made a point, and I agree with him. So I know that we're going to be purchasing the Sputnik V vaccines. Mm-hmm. The Sputnik V vaccine we're going to be purchasing, but we should also try and purchase more of the AstraZeneca. Okay, we're expecting 2.4 million vaccines from the COVAX facility. Mm-hmm. The private sector fund, COVID-19 private sector fund, is raising funds to purchase 4 million vaccines. My interaction with some of the persons in the Ghana Health Service tells me that, well, once it becomes available, why not? You know, many of these have become problematic because a lot of people are ordering for them. Some are actually pre-ordered. But if we get a chance, let's use our money, buy them quickly, and conclude the vaccinations. It's very important if we can deal with COVID-19. I have been vaccinated. You have also. We had our own side effects. But here we are today having a conversation with you. And I think that the vaccines that we have started giving out, it's a step in the right direction, and let's continue like that.
The only fear is that sometimes even having the money may not be enough.
Yeah, that's why I said that. So I know that the Sputnik V, we're expecting some 10 million doses of it, per what I've been told. And so if we have that available, why not? The private sector is giving us 4 million. And as I said, if we can get more AstraZeneca, let's
do that. Yeah. Let's do that. The AstraZeneca seems a bit more reliable, doesn't it?
Based on what I felt the last time, and based on the current literature available, seems so.
Let's bring back Dr. John Amoisi. He is a global public health expert. We spoke to him earlier today on his expectations on the state of the nation regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's hear him very quickly to finish off that part of the conversation. Then we talk about the economy itself, the COVID-ravaged economy, and how we bring it back. So, Dr. John Amoisi.
Regarding a roadmap for eliminating COVID from our country. It will call for significant investments in surveillance systems. It will also call for significant investments in vaccination to allow us to reach that proverbial herd immunity. And it will call for significant investments in tightening the borders, not only the air, but also the land, so that whoever comes in can be sieved, literally. And if found to be carrying the virus, can be quarantined or isolated till they don't come in. So those are the three areas of significant, it's going to call for very heavy investment. But ultimately, what will happen is that it may hurt us a little bit economically because it's going to be heavy investment. But within the next 2 or 3 years, there'll be massive gains from this if we're able to get it right, because then we'll be recovering quicker than others, we'll become a more favorable destination, we'll be open to be able to travel to other places as well. And we can see it in China. And I think if we follow this model, it should do as well. It will be painful 2021, but if we get it right, 2022, 2023, definitely will be good for us.
You're live on the JoyNews channel, also live on Joy 99.7 FM. This is our coverage of the State of the Nation address. My name is Daniel Dazi, here in studio with Winston Amwa. We're breaking down some of the issues to look at when it comes to the State of the Nation address. We understand that the second lady, wife of the Vice President Samira Bawumia, has arrived, so has the First Lady. Rebecca Akufo-Addo. Remember, a makeshift dome has been set up outside of the Chamber of Parliament. That is where President Akufo-Addo will be addressing the House. This space actually allows for social distancing. We have there in our shots Akufo-Addo, the Chief of Staff, waiting for the president there. What do you make of the new administration that the president is facing, you know, this particular regime with, the mix of persons who form his cabinet? What do you make of that?
Well, I've seen that the ministers have been sworn in. We're waiting for the list of the cabinet. But I think that, but I must say, I am particularly happy that we've seen young men like Samuel Abu-Jinapor and Asenso Boache, Godfred Yeboah-Dami. You know, these are potential cabinet ministers, and it's refreshing to note that they find themselves as part of the 30 ministers that the President Akufo-Addo wants to work with when it comes to the various sectors of the Ghanaian economy. Apart from that, the President's inner chamber, you have Akosua-Fremel-Pare.
Continuing as Chief of Staff. Did that surprise you when you saw that?
Well, it didn't.
Why not?
I didn't
surprise me.
I did not think that the president was going to change her. Because she's been very close to the president. And there's a president that has shown you that he loves loyalty. And so it's not surprising that she's back. And you've seen it in a lot of the ministerial appointments, apart from a few, those who lost their parliamentary elections, which the president says if you lost your parliamentary election, you're not coming back. And a few others like Samuel Atachia, who did not come back, and Professor Kwabena Frimpong-Boateng, who didn't stand for elections. Those who won the elections have been reappointed as ministers, and you've seen that clearly. You also would see, for instance, that when it comes to the Deputy Chief of Staff, because Samuel Abu-Jinapor and Francis Asenso Boache have been made ministers, the president had to replace them. Eugene Ahin is still Director of Communications. It only goes to suggest the president is pleased with the performance of these persons who worked in his inner circles. When it comes to the ministers, well, we have seen their performance at the vetting, and I'm sure that I do not pretend to speak for all Ghanaians. Ghanaians saw their performance. Ghanaians will be the better judges, whether these are the persons that can actually transform the country or not.
Is there anyone that's particularly stood out for you?
Well, I must say that Godfred Dami was excellent. Samuel Abu-Jinapor did well. Kojo Apon-Nkrumah also did well. Alan Tremantin did well. Kweku Ofori-Esiama, Transport Minister, did well. He did well. Yeah, he did well.
He showed a knowledge of his sector.
Yes, and these guys did well.
I won't disagree with you. I liked Yao Educhum as well.
Yes, he also did well. Yes,
Yao Educhum did very well. And our regional minister, Kwabena Okyere-Daku-Mensah, he was, you know, there was a challenge that was faced by those who came late in the day. Yao Educhum was a third minister on his day. Kwabena Okyere-Daku-Mensah was also a third minister. He was a final minister on his day. So there were moments where some of the comments were even suggestive of, oh, you seem tired. That is why you are answering with short answers. But beyond, you know, that particular dynamic, I think that the persons I have named did quite well. There were those who really suffered at the hand of the committee. I mean, obviously, maybe Sawa Kumse being one of them. But I would say as those who Akufo also didn't have a very comfortable day. With a number of questions. She spent about 6 hours before the committee. It wasn't an easy experience for her at all. But I mentioned this because a number of the names you are mentioning, you know, are appearing in our shot waiting for the president to come to Parliament House. And when that happens, the president, of course, would be addressing us. The former Chief of Staff, did I say Chief of Staff? The former Chief Justice Georgina Wood, just appeared in our shot, member of the Council of State. Hajia Alima Mahama, should I say, has been promoted from minister to a member of Council of State.
Is that a promotion? She gets to work under the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So she gets to report to her colleague minister. I don't know if that's a promotion.
I always saw the Council of State, since they take part in...
No, Haji Halima Mahama is an ambassador now.
Is an ambassador, pardon me.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking whether that's a promotion. Because
no, pardon me, but it was my bad. It was my bad. Because the Council of State helps the president to make appointments in some cases. So it's quite an interesting position to be in. But that's the dome. The president was scheduled to speak an hour ago, over an hour ago. We understand that he has arrived at Parliament House. Alan Tremanting there in your shots. He would soon be delivering the State of the Nation address. But Winston, quite a lot of questions are asked about, whether or not this is just a mere formality, delivery of a State of the Nation address, and what it really does. Oh yeah, but that's the president's convoy in our shot. He often goes with saloon vehicles.
Daniel, it's a constitutional provision. I'm not sure that it's just one of those things, because we have representatives as a people. And the president is elected by us to serve us. And because it would be difficult for the president to address us all the time and be questioned and have his address debated on, it's the reason we've said address our representatives, and our representatives are the members of parliament. 275 of them. Tell them what it is you have done, what it is you want to do. I mean, so you tell them where we are now, where we want to go, and how we intend to get there. And that would simply be debated on by all of us, so we know the true state of our country. And that's why this is very, very important. And it's not one of those that you just come in. It's not like, giving a speech on television.
Should someone tell you what the state of the country is?
Well, I do not pretend to know everything. So I can tell you the state of my economy.
That's the question I'm
asking. But it's the state of the nation.
That's the question I'm asking. Isn't the state of the nation for every individual a reflection of what happens in their pockets?
So again, the state of the nation is where we are as a people.
As a collective.
Yes. What is the state of our health sector? What is the state of our economy? What's the state of our social services? You put all of them together, then we are able to debate it and find out where we want to go. So this is actually to get our representatives debating these. They get to express the views they have on these things the president would say. And after that, all of us can come together and say, indeed, this is the state of Ghana. If it is not, we can tell the president, this is not what you say you are. And look, we have consistently used the things the president said in the past against him. I remember when John Dramani Mahama, in his 2016 State of the Nation address, said he had banned the sale of cars to former appointees. When he came back and he was leaving and they were buying it, well, I used that and said, you said this. Okay? So it's very important. It serves as a bit of accountability. It serves as accountability. You're accounting for your stewardship. And then when you do that, we can also judge you based on what you've told us. And what you promised to do will remind you that you said this is what we're going to do. Why are we not doing them? Okay? Yeah. So, look, when
it
the
helps
state...
us hold them accountable.
Yes. So when the state of... in this situation, if you have the state of the nation address presented, a lot of things the president is going to say today may find themselves in the 2020 budget. Because apart from the estimates...
Which will be delivered on Friday.
On Friday, apart from the estimates for the first 3 months...
but then again, let me just say that President Akufo-Addo has arrived. He is receiving a guard of honor. He will be inspecting that guard very quickly before he moves into the chamber to deliver the address, whose relevance we are currently discussing. Winston, you were making a point.
Yes, so I'm saying that, look, it's very, very relevant, and particularly for these years, also because the president, the budget hasn't been presented yet. We're expecting the budget to be presented on Friday, and I am aware that government over the weekend met at the Peduase Lodge. A lot of discussions have been had on the State of the Nation address and the budget. So if you really, really want to know what is going to happen on Friday, you may as well start from now.
Yeah, exactly. And for Friday, what is said about Friday, its importance cannot be overestimated, can it?
No, it cannot.
Yes. And speaking of which, a question has been, who delivers the budget statements? We know Ken Oforiatta would be indisposed. The suggestion has been made that it will be read by Oseche Mensah-Bonsu as opposed to Alan Tremanting, who was expected to read it earlier.
Well,
but however, before we go into that, let's rejoin the feed from the House. Alban Bagbin is on his feet, Speaker of Parliament, addressing the gathering before the President enters. This is Joy 99.7 FM if you're listening to us, and Joy News on TV if you're watching.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. State of the Nation address guard of honor thunder. 4 hostels, 26 rank and staff, the one from the Ghana and the Ghana Armed Forces Special Band, ready for inspection. Captain Robert Mete, Ojika.
For the benefit of our audience listening to us on Joy 99.7 FM, the President is currently inspecting the Guard of Honor. He is marching and watching the soldiers. He's taking a leisurely stroll. Yeah, well, so he's walking amongst the soldiers, and he is currently inspecting the Guard. He's inspecting the Guard.
And, deliver the State of the Nation Address 2021 to all of us as citizens of the Republic of Ghana.
Exactly. At the moment we've all been waiting for, haven't we, Winston? It's a very solemn occasion, I must say. The mere fact that we are not doing this in a regular chamber of the House is indicative of the fact that we are not in ordinary times. Everyone there masked up. Of course, the President in his dark suit and I think it's a light blue tie and his black nose mask. Let's rejoin the feed. So currently we have the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin. Winston, I believe he's stepping out to go and receive the President.
Yes, he's stepping out to go and receive the President. So he's going to come back into the chamber with the President. And once he comes back with the President would deliver the State of the Nation Address.
And of course, he's going out with the leadership of the House. I just saw minority and majority leaders, Haruna Idrisu and Oseche Mensah-Bonsu, respectively, walk out just before the Speaker. It's like when a dignitary comes home, you step out with the leadership of your home and you receive them into the household respectfully, which is exactly what is going to happen currently. It's a very important occasion. It's Mr. Bagbin's first time to carry out this duty as Speaker, but of course he's a doyen when it comes to the Parliament of the Fourth Republic. He's been in that Parliament every single year.
He has. He's never left Parliament, and I like how you put it that his first time as Speaker, because since he became minority leader in 2001, he was minority leader until 2009. He became majority leader until he became a minister. And then he came back again as majority leader. And then he became second deputy speaker until he became Speaker of Parliament. So this is his first time as Speaker of Parliament. The last State of the Nation address was during the tenure of Professor Aaron Michael Quay as Speaker of Parliament. That's the national anthem.
Yeah, that's the national anthem being played just outside the makeshift Chamber of Parliament. President Akufo-Addo was a very solemn bit.
So it means he's done inspecting the Guard of Honor. So once he's done, he takes the national anthem is played, and then we get into Parliament.
And then we get into Parliament to do the business of the day, which is deliver the State of the Nation address. Very interesting. Winston, a bit of education for maybe if it's a question on the mind of our listeners. It is when the mace is moved into this chamber that it becomes the Parliament House, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. That is why, for instance, the venue of Parliament can be moved to Independence Square.
Exactly.
When the president is being sworn in, and is now being moved to this dome when the State of the Nation.
Without a mace, there's no Parliament.
Which means that wherever the mace is, there's
Parliament.
Which means Parliament is